Right, this is quite a small one. These are the countries that have valued the EQ5D 3L using time trade-off. And they're an interesting mix. Japan is in here. Here. Let me explain the columns. Well, the country column is perhaps obvious. It's the country where the study was undertaken. One assumes the respondents were from the country, because usually people were selected on some sort of random process. And so, yes, they'll largely be from the country. The respondent column is the number of respondents in the survey. The health state column is the number of health states in total in the survey that are being valued. Not necessarily all being valued by the same individual, but in total, across the sample of individuals, how many of the EQ5D health states were valued. And then this fourth and eighth column, is how many health states individual respondents were asked to value. And there's some quite interesting features here. Round of applause for Brazil. By doing a follow-up survey or a second survey, they in the end valued every EQ5D health state. We can compare that with, for example, back to minimalism in Japan. The Japanese survey, and some other countries, valued only 17 health states, but they got the respondents to value all 17. We can compare that. Look at Canada. They valued 48 health states in total, but didn't ask respondents to value more than 5. I think it's long winter nights, I'm not sure. Poland, they asked each respondent to value 23 health states. Now, to me, this is bizarre. How could these individuals still be engaged? I mean, this choosing a value of X for each health state, to do it 23 times is it's cruel and unnatural. It's some form of torture. But anyway, they did. Thailand is, for me, an interesting one. Valued quite a few health states, in total 83. Is one of my PhD students. She'd done a master's degree with me. She was a doctor specialising in rehabilitation medicine. And after the master's, she decided she'd like to do a PhD with me. And she said, well, I'd like to do something around economic evaluation of rehabilitation medicine. I said, fine. How are you going to measure health outcome? So she came back about a week later and said, I think EQ5D is a good measure. And I said, all right. And so you're going to measure outcomes in a Thai population with respect to rehabilitation medicine, and you're going to value the health outcome using UK measure, or what measure? And back a week later, she said, I don't want to use the British measure or any of these other measures. At that time, I think the Japanese measure existed. Also, there was a Korean measure. She didn't want to use those. She said, I'm going to collect health state values for EQ5D in Thailand. And so her PhD sort of flipped over from being an evaluation of interventions in rehabilitation medicine to being a nationally representative survey of health state preferences in Thailand. And she got funding from the Thai government. Didn't cost very much, because if you want to collect data in a country like Thailand, it's so much cheaper than collecting data, say, in England or, I guess, Japan. And she went and did it. And, well, how impressive for a PhD. The end of the story, of course, is we then compared the Thai values to the other countries. And the country the Thai values were most similar to was the British. So if she'd never done it and just used British values, that may not have mattered too much. But I tried to think why, what's going on? And the only thing I could come up with in common between Thailand and Britain was driving on the left side of the road, as indeed happens in Japan. But the Japanese health state values are somewhat different. Before I leave this, I mean, it's kind of interesting, but I need to move on. Sweden rather stands out. 45,000 respondents, each valuing one health state. Well, in a way, I probably shouldn't put this one in here. They did use time trade-off. It is the EQ5D3L, but what this was a general sort of health survey in Sweden, very large survey, and they asked the respondents to complete the EQ5D questionnaire and to do the 2112 thing. And they then asked them, taking that health state, the health state you are currently in, they asked the time trade-off question. So imagine being in this health state for the next 10 years, then dying, or imagine a shorter period of full health. And so of all these respondents, these 45,000 were valuing the health state they were actually in. Everybody else is probably valuing a hypothetical health state. I mean, a handful of them might have been in the health state described, but generally not. So it's somewhat different.
And then are those values quite different from the others?
They don't stand out in the sense of being, oh, this is like something completely different. I mean, the different countries do vary, but there's nothing that makes the Swedish data look a degree different. Interestingly, in this very large survey, they came up with 148 different health states. In other words, there's about 100 health states that never occurred. Maybe not so strange, because of course, if you're in a really severe health state, you're not going to fill in this questionnaire, probably.
In other words, some of the other conditions are simply too hypothetical to be real in life.
There will be some combinations that would be very strange. I'm confined to bed, I'm unable to do self-care or any of my usual activities, I'm in extreme pain, but I'm not anxious or depressed. No, I think that would be, well, it's possible.
There's been a lot of cross-cultural research on death anxiety and terror theory and things like this. Presumably a culture that thinks death isn't a very bad thing at all might have different results from a country that's terrified of death.
Well, I know this is going to slow me down, but this directly strikes a chord with our Thai study. I was a bit concerned that the time trade-off question might not really work in Thailand. Thailand is, at least apart from the very southern part, is predominantly Buddhist in belief, and because of a belief in reincarnation and so on, there was a real possibility that giving up years of life might seem rather less important. And also, it's rather, from my flimsy grasp of Buddhist belief, it's rather important, as it were, not to be disabled and to be healthy. And I guess there's maybe some link that you're more likely to come back healthy if you are healthy to start, something like that. And so I thought there was a real prospect that time trade-off just would not make sense in Thailand. But the responses seem to be as sensible as any other country, shall I say. So it's quite interesting. Okay, I won't spend much time on this. This is the 5L. Again, Japan has been quite an early mover. A few other countries. One point here, that one development is something called the discrete choice experiment, is another elicitation technique, and quite a lot of these countries have then been using a combination of time trade-off results and discrete choice experiments. I can't go into discrete choice experiments, I'm afraid. It's no time.